All right, we got people filing in, but we'll get started. Welcome to our Alta Labs training webinar. I'm Mark Aragini. I handle marketing for 21st Century Distributing, and we are thrilled you guys are going to be joining us for the next hour. Alta Labs is a line of networking products that we think you'll want to start utilizing for future applications. We are fully stocked in all 7 locations. So make sure you guys get with your rep or check out Alta Labs on our dealer website to get you started. So we have Tony and Dalen here with Alta Labs. Thank you guys for jumping on with us to get us all trained up on the line. If you have any questions, feel free to enter those in the chat box below. We'll get those answered for you. Also, like I mentioned before, if you guys heard me, this is going to be recorded. And it will be posted in our virtual conference center on our dealer website. So if you have a tech or if you want to come back and review this again, you think you'll find it useful the second time, please make sure you go on our virtual conference center to check out the recording of this live training. And also, if you guys could please mute yourself during the webinar, we would appreciate it. So without further ado, I believe Tony is going to get us started, and we'll go into Dalen, and we'll get you guys all trained up on Alta Labs. So thanks guys for joining us.
Hey, thanks, Mark. Hey, thank you guys for spending the morning with us. We're super excited about our brand, so hopefully you guys are as well as we talk about our products and what products we've launched with, and also what products we're going to launch with here in the next few months. Just a quick introduction of myself. My name is Tony Razavon, Director of Business Development. I've been in the industry for a very long time, starting with Pacific Wireless about 16, 17 years ago. They were an antenna manufacturer. From Pacific Wireless, I worked for a distributor for about 6 years. Then with Ubiquity Networks, running their business development team for about 8 years. So super excited to be able to tell you guys a little bit about Alta. Dalen, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Sure. So I'm Dalen Kaufman. I'm our VP of Business Development at Alta Labs, and Tony and I have actually known each other for a long time already. We worked, as he mentioned before, we both worked together at Ubiquity Networks for about 5 years. He oversaw kind of the U.S., Canada, I think APAC region, and I oversaw the European market for them. But yeah, similar to Tony, I've been in the industry for a while. The last number of years since I left Ubiquity, I've been working for a company called Sound Vision Technologies, which is actually the parent company behind Alta Labs. Traditionally has been much more of an AV focused company, focused on speakers and all sorts of great products. But a number of years back now, we decided to launch a new networking brand called Alta Labs, and here we are. So I'll let you introduce more of that, though, Tony, backstory. So back to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Dalen. So Alta Labs, quickly, we are new, founded in 2022, but we are a very experienced team. Our parent company has been around, like Dalen said, for a while. Sound Vision Technology is our parent company, and they've been around since, about 24 years ago. So we're well backed and guys that have been running it for a very long time. And one guy specifically, our CTO, Jeff, I think he's been owning his own business or working in this industry since he was probably 16, 17 years old. So very long time. He actually ran the Unify team at Ubiquity as well. Ben Moore, one of our owners and board member here at Sound Vision Technologies and Alta Labs, he was probably one of the early employees at Ubiquity. So those are the two guys that I really wanted to highlight. Chase Harrison, our CEO, he was with Sound Vision Technologies, our parent company, before jumping on 100% with Alta Labs in the last year. So here are kind of the 5 pillars of why people should install and use Alta Labs. So reliability and performance. We've tested our products against other brands that are similar to our Wi-Fi 6 access points and switches, and we've outperformed them incredibly on range and on the reliability part. Support, we do have support from real people. You can call us if you need. We have live support, email support, and also our forum. Our forum, all of our engineers are there looking at your requests and all your questions, specifically features that you guys might need in the future. We will look at those seriously and intentionally to make sure you guys have what you guys need to install in your environment now and into the future as we future-proof your installs. Free training is available. There's a bunch of videos out right now on YouTube, but also we will have a training program where you guys can get certified in the future in using our products. Even though our products are very easy to use, easy to manage, we understand there might be some training that might be needed. So we will look into getting those out to you guys sooner than later. Very channel friendly. We have a strong margin structure for you guys. So we do have a strong structure for distribution, sub-distribution, and installers that install our product. So there won't be kind of a race to the bottom. I think one of the things that we've learned in our past life is that it's hard to sell a product with single-digit margins. So we're looking to kind of control that and help you guys make money selling and using our product. And also, we will announce something, a pretty cool program here in the next week or so that will be very exciting for us to announce it to you guys, so you guys can make even more money than what you guys are used to selling a networking brand. So we pride ourselves to being a customer and community driven. So make sure when you guys haven't yet, join or be a member of our community forum by going to forum.alta.inc. That you'll be able to see a bunch of your peers there talking about the product, trying to be the best that they can be, and it's a lot of the comments aren't very biased. So we see all the positives, negatives. We welcome all kind of feedback. So let us know what you guys are seeing out there as you're installing, and also what you guys are looking for in the future. Like I said, we are very community driven. We like to hear from you. So make sure you guys are on there. And right now there's actually a cool marketing piece. If you guys want an Alta t-shirt, you just need to post a story of one of your first installs, and we'll actually just ship you a t-shirt. So to kind of help say thank you for you guys for installing and posting on our forum and being active there. And also, we have a lot of blogs that are available now, and we'll actually continue to roll out blogs. I think they're very useful. Down, we'll talk about a couple of the stories on our blogs here in a few minutes. But go to help.alta.inc. There's going to be tutorials, how-tos, stories of future case studies, and all that stuff. So check those out. And if you haven't checked out our website, make sure you check out our website, alta.inc. So we're excited to share what we're currently offering now, but keep in mind that these are just beginning products. We will talk about some of the future products as well. We're excited to announce a few things that we're launching the first half of this year. So Dallin will talk about that. So jumping into our hardware, we've launched with 2 access points, so an AP6 and AP6 Pro. The biggest difference here on the AP6 is that it is indoor only, so make sure you're installing this indoor, and it's also 2x2 on both 5 gig and 2.4 gig bands, but they are Wi-Fi 6 access points. Our AP6 Pro has some Wi-Fi 7 benefits. So the biggest feature from Wi-Fi 7 that we pulled in, being the first manufacturer with the relationship with Qualcomm, they gave us a special chipset that has these Wi-Fi 7 benefits. And the biggest one is the 4K QAM. that helps with the airtime efficiency, and you can do over 6.3 gig of Wi-Fi capacity on the access point. Range and throughput is about 30% greater in many cases because of the 4x4 on the 5 gig antenna. And it is IP54 rated, meaning you can install these outdoors under an overhang or an eave. So for those that are looking to install our access points outdoor right now, this is IP54 rated. You can do it outdoors, just make sure it's under an eave. Jumping into our switch, we launched with an 8-port, 16-port, and a 24-port switch. So they do have higher PoE budgets and healthy PoE budgets. 8-port switch, Bluetooth capable. PoE budgets is 60 watts on these, and half of these ports are PoE plus, and half of them are LAN ports. And as you can see there, we've intentionally designed these so it looks sleek, but also very functional. Than having that reset button right there in the front. You won't accidentally reset the button because you have to kind of hold it down longer. I want to say like 10 seconds or so to be able to reset each of our hardware. So all of our hardware has built-in reset buttons, so you don't need a special tool to reset it if needed. Here's our 16-port switch. 8 ports are PoE plus. They come with 2 SFP ports, Bluetooth capable, so you can easily set these up using a cell phone. And the apps that are available in the store, the Google Play and the Apple Store is on Android or iOS. So coming back to the hardware, we've intentionally designed the look and feel of these switches. A lot of the switches that you're seeing in the industry, in the market now, have those SFP ports stacked on top of each other. We've done a lot of research, and a lot of the times when you're using these SFP ports, a lot of the heat comes from those ports. So instead of having it top and bottom, we have it side by side, and also added those vent holes at the top to help with the heat dissipation. Here's our 24-port switch. These 16 of those ports are PoE plus. Again, you'll see those SFP, but these are SFP plus ports, so up to 10 gig on those. The heat vents are up there, or vent holes are there to help with the heat dissipation again. Same look and feel as the 16-port switch. These have 250 watt PoE budgets, and they are Bluetooth capable as well. And I will pause there and hand this over to Dallin.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony. So I'm going to share my screen with you, actually. So, Tony, you can stop sharing yours.
Yep.
All right, perfect. Give me just 1 second, guys, and I'll get this pulled up. All right, can you guys see?
Yeah, looks
my
good.
screen? Okay.
Yep. Looks
Okay.
good.
Perfect. Awesome. So, yeah, Tony obviously gave a quick intro to to our current product offering. I'm going to talk about some of our future products as well that we'll be launching this year, as Tony alluded to. Before I do that, though, I want to jump into a couple different case studies real quick, and in the process highlight at least one feature from our controller. And then depending on how much time we have, we'll jump back into the controller, for a little bit longer and show you some additional features as well. So this first case study is from it's a fitness center, as you can see, based here in Utah, in the state of Utah, actually, where we're based as well. We were able to redo their network. And just wanted to share with you guys some of the results that came from that. So first, just a little bit of background, right? This is a pretty large facility, large community center. They've got multiple, as you can see, indoor Olympic, pools, NBA size courts. They've got, water park as well there. So in the summertime, that they're hosting outdoor movies as well. So it's a very, very popular community center that's hosting thousands of people on a daily basis. And so obviously you need to have a really solid network in order to properly service all your customers. So what we did is we did a direct AP for AP replacement. So there was 21 access points already deployed previously, and we kept it at 21, right? So we just swapped them out for our Alta access points. I think we used entirely our AP6 Pros on this project. But you can see here, just based on the heat map, coming back to the performance piece that Tony mentioned, this is, I guess, some of the evidence of that, right? The increase that these guys were able to see in their network based on switching to Alta. You can see, in the after photo here, you're seeing a lot more color, right? There's a lot more range that they were able to receive from each access point. And then they were able to see increased speeds as well, right? So even on the outer edges of this network, they were still able to get 100 plus megabits per second. Make sure that they're able to keep hosting their movie nights, and they've been really happy with the solution. You can also check out there was a video that was done by this. I think I'm trying to remember if it's on our YouTube channel or if actually it's a is another influencer actually that followed us around and did a video of this. So we can share that after for those that are interested to check it out and get more details on this particular project. The other project I wanted to spend a little bit more time on this one, and this is where, like I said, I'll dive into our controller a little bit. But kind of a hot topic in the space right now is MDUs. If you guys are probably familiar with that term, but it's multi-dwelling units. Typically apartment buildings. In this case, it's a student housing complex near Notre Dame University. And what I wanted to highlight here specifically is the use on this project of what we call AltaPass. AltaPass is a multi-password technology. In fact, this graphic does a really good job of illustrating it, and then I'll show you a little bit, in more detail in the controller here in a second. But the idea is, previously this apartment complex, they had 68 different apartments. So typically that would mean 68 different SSIDs, which is a lot of SSIDs to be broadcasting in a small area, right? In just one building. And what that does is it creates a lot of RF congestion, which impacts the performance of the network to have that many SSIDs being broadcast in one building. And so the idea is with AltaPass, they were able to take that from 68 different SSIDs down to one broadcasting SSID in the student housing complex. This has a number of different advantages. I mean, I already mentioned the performance piece and just eliminating that congestion, streamlining that down to the same SSID, but also has big advantage too. Like, for example, just the students there. Previously they would need, they'd be connected to their SSID in their own apartment, but as soon as they leave the apartment, right, they're going to be disconnected from the Wi-Fi or shortly after, right, depending on the range of the networking products used. But with AltaPass, right, they can stay connected to that same SSID regardless of where they go in that building or complex, depending on how wide the network is. And the idea is that the rules or settings that apply to that particular password or for them will follow them wherever they go. So, for example, for this complex, right, they could have some students on maybe just the typical networking package, and then maybe other students that are paying for higher speeds. And depending on, like I said, the password that they're using, those rules will follow them wherever they go. Even in, for example, in the same room, right? Like, so, you could have, two students sharing the same room. One, like I said, is maybe paying for higher speeds and the other isn't. And depending on, like I said, the password that they're using, the rules will apply to them accordingly. So to show you guys this more, or to give you a little bit more details on AltaPass and how it works, and highlight again kind of the advantages of using it in this particular project or in MDU projects generally, or other types of projects as well. I'm going to jump in here to our controller. So this is just our opening dashboard when you're logged into our controller. Um, like I said, depending on time, we'll come back here and highlight some other features and different dashboards in the controller. But I'm going to jump first just over here to our settings tab, and then open up one of our SSIDs to better illustrate AltaPass and how it works. So I'm going to click on our Sound Vision SSID, which is just one of the main SSIDs at our headquarters. You can see here with our Sound Vision SSID, I've got kind of three different options here. Our passwords, which we'll spend most of our time here as well. But just to briefly highlight, there are options to authenticate with a Radius server as well for customers that need that. So that you can do so here. Obviously, we don't recommend this, but if there is a customer for some reason that needs an open network without a password, they can do that here. But jumping back over here to the passwords, a big component of AltaPass, and I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit more so you guys can see maybe better. A big component of AltaPass is the fact that we've created these pre-configured network types right here. So we have five different network types that we've created pre-configured, out of the box, so that you can, down here, just select them from a drop-down menu. So we've got guest, which is internet only, but then access to IoT devices like printers, internet, which is just internet only, an IoT network, which normally would take an installer or network administrator quite a bit of time to create, right? It involves a lot of isolation and VLAN configurations in order to isolate those IoT devices, right, and keep them sandboxed and not allow them to have access to the rest of the network. So with our solution, right, you can create it from a drop-down menu, which is a huge advantage and a big time saver for a lot of installers. And then we've got two other network types: a large one, which is optimized for larger environments where you got thousands of devices trying to connect to the network, and then a standard network, which would be less than 100 devices. So the idea here, right, is you can take these pre-configured networks, and so we've got a standard one, a guest network set up, and an IoT network set up, and depending on the password that you use, it'll connect you to the right type of network, right? But it's just one SSID, the Sound Vision SSID, but different networks that are accessed by different passwords. So if I wanted to create a new password, right, I would just hit add password, select my network type. So let's say, for example, I wanted to set up another guest network. And then I have some other options here as well. So I can assign a VLAN to this particular password. I can do download or upload rates. So as I mentioned again in the student housing example, right, like if I wanted to have one password, right, with rate restrictions and maybe 5 megabits per second download and upload rate restrictions there, I can put that there. Like I said, maybe we'll assign VLAN 10 right here. I can bypass the hotspot. So this would be more maybe as an example, like at a restaurant, right? Where you have a splash page that you have to, get onto first in order to access the Wi-Fi. You want your guests going through that, but you don't want your employees probably having to bypass or having to go through that hotspot or splash page every time. So, maybe with this password, right, we can bypass that hotspot, or ignore the schedule. So we have a scheduler built into the controller so that I can restrict the Wi-Fi at different times, right, or only allow it at different times. But by password, I can ignore the schedule. Same idea with filtering. So each of our access points have a DPI engine built into the access point themselves. So even with just the purchase of a single access point, you have the ability to block certain websites or certain applications, right? But with our solution here, with AltaPass, by password, right, you can bypass the filtering rules. So in my situation, I'm a dad with two young kids. I can set up filtering rules for them. I could also set up a scheduler, as I mentioned before. But for my wife and I, right, we're not going to want to abide by the same schedule or the same filtering rules as my kids. So we can set up a separate password for us. And then this, I'll come back to this one a little bit later, but this locked idea is just that as a network administrator, you can give certain people access to the network, but maybe you don't want to have to give them access to everything, including certain passwords. So if I hit locked right here, that password is going to be locked to me as the network administrator or to those that I decide to give access to. So as you can see, this is a really robust system. It's different than what the industry typically does in terms of you create a separate SSID for every different situation that you need. It's a lot cleaner to have a single SSID with different network types, different rules that are applied by password as opposed to creating a completely different network each time. You can still do so with our solution, right? You can still set up multiple SSIDs. I think it's up to 5 or 7. I have to double check on that. I don't remember off the top of my head, but we support multiple SSIDs if needed as well. One thing to highlight here too is just make sure this is clear. We are placing a patent on a lot of this, so that we have patent pending on a lot of this Alta technology. There are some there's some other vendors that do some similar things that I think is important just to note, and also note how much more robust and different our solution is. So some of you, if you're familiar with the networking space, may be familiar with a feature called PPSK. There's a few other names that it goes by as well, but typically it's PPSK. PPSK is kind of this concept. It's the idea of having a single SSID with passwords associated with that SSID. But the limit, right, with PPSK is all you can do really is create a different password and have a different VLAN for that password. There is no pre-configured network types with just PPSK. There's you don't have the ability to rate set rate limits, so download or upload rate restrictions by password with PPSK. Same thing with the ability to bypass the hotspot, the scheduler, or filtering rules, things like that. So all of that is unique to AltaPass, as opposed to, like I said, PPSK, which some other vendors do support, but you're very limited in what you can accomplish. This is just much more user friendly. Like I said, the ability to create network types by from a drop down menu and create all sorts of different rules based on password. So with that being said, I'm actually going to jump back to the case study and just to kind of close that off, and then we'll jump into our new products, and then we can come back to the controller here in a little bit. Let me just come back.
Hey, we have a question.
Yeah,
if
sure.
you wouldn't mind,
What's
it's a good time to maybe answer that from David. Is
Be
the
happy
controller
to.
built into each switch or AP to manage remotely?
Good question. Yeah, so the controller right now is 100% cloud-based, and so yeah, we absolutely do support remote management, and there's a lot of multi-site features built into it as well, so that you can manage multiple sites from the same cloud-based controller, and access it anywhere in the world. I'll talk a little bit about as well. I know there are some customers that prefer or would like a local controller as well. In fact, we can just do that right now. Jump into our future projects or products, which includes a local controller option. But to answer your question a little bit more fully, yes, so we do support remote management. It's cloud based, and so there's not a local controller right built into the access points. It's just you buy a single access point and then you have access to our free cloud. Is the concept. Does that address that, or were there other questions we should address?
Yeah, no.
Right now?
The other one actually you're about to get into, and it was regarding the router.
Okay.
Is it router agnostic? And I believe Tony did answer that. Which router to use. I know that Q2 there will be a new router you guys are going to come out with. I guess until then, I guess what he said, it is router agnostic, right?
Correct. Yep. So for now, yeah, we're router agnostic. Any router should work just fine with our products. And then yes, we'll launch as you can see right here. So Q2, we'll have a router coming out, and we'll continue our products will continue to operate well under other routers as well. But obviously, it's great to have things under a single pane of glass, as much as possible. So and there'll be a number of features that are built into our controller that are to our router that will be accessed in our controller.
And just to build on that, another question came in. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
is there one that's recommended over another, or is it? I mean,
not necessarily.
I
mean, not really. I mean, obviously, you can reach out to our tech team if you ever want some recommendations on good routers. There's in the market. There's a lot of great ones, right? A lot of things a lot of routers that do some good things. So we can provide some if someone really is looking for some specific recommendations. Great. Happy to help out there, but we don't have like a go-to router, right? Like until we launch our own, like you guys should use this one. But happy if someone just is needing some kind of networking advice, we can also provide some recommendations there.
Great, thank you.
Yep. So as far as what's on the roadmap, we probably soonest or the earliest one is PoE injectors. Those are I think just started to ship from our warehouse in Vietnam. That's a little bit more of an accessory, right? Most of the time, I think customers are going to just be powering these products with a PoE switch. But there are cases, right, where maybe you need to where that's not achievable, and you want to mesh an access point, and so in that case, you would need a PoE injector. So obviously, there's other PoE injectors out there in the market. There's not a whole lot of differentiation there, other than just having an Alta one. But we'll have those available as well, and we'll get them to 21st Century here in the near future. So when needed, you can easily get those from them. Next one I alluded to as well is an on-premise controller that's coming in Q1. We actually have kind of two solutions there. I'm going to highlight or talk about each of these products a little bit more detail. So I'll come back to the on-premise controller. Router, as I mentioned, Q2. Outdoor access. So router is probably just to be a little bit more specific. It's probably going to be summer timeframe. So hopefully June is kind of what we're pushing for at the moment. And then our outdoor access point, also Q2, but more earlier on in Q2. So we're shooting for April right now on our outdoor AP. Our 48 port switch and a Wi-Fi 7 AP are coming as well, but those will be later in the year, so Q4. Just to provide a little bit more detail on the kind of on-premise or local controller solution. This is actually a really good example. Tony alluded to previously that we're very community based, and one of the things we really want to focus on is listening to feedback that's coming in from installers and customers like yourselves, and adapting accordingly. So we've always had a local on-premise based controller on our roadmap. We knew it's definitely needed in certain situations, but to be honest, it wasn't necessarily our top priority. But after we launched last year, we got a lot of feedback from a lot of customers saying, we love your products, we love the APs, but we really need a local controller. And that's not everyone. Obviously, there's a lot of people that are happy with the cloud, and are comfortable with the cloud. But there's other customers, whether it's for a particular project or just in general their own preferences, right? Prefer to have a local controller solution or option. And so we'll have a physical piece of hardware, is kind of what these specs are right here, at least limited specs, that you can manage 500 to 1,000, devices, which is really robust. There's, other local controller options out there in the market that are much more limited. And this one will be very affordable. Don't have exact pricing yet, but I know that the target pricing we have right now is very affordable, and will be disruptive based on the number of devices, right, that it'll be able to support. And then there'll be single power supply, a gigabit port, optional rack mount. But the other thing I want to note here too on the premise-based controller is we will also have a self-hosted solution as well. So we're in the process of working on a Docker image, so that and we'll it should be actually just be a matter of weeks. We're excited to be announcing just in probably a few more weeks. I don't have an exact date for you, but we are getting close to be able to have a self-hosted solution. So we're not even going to wait until we have the physical piece of hardware for customers that want to just be able to get started with our products, and are being held back by the cloud-only approach that we've taken so far, or thus far. And that will be available in beta first. So we'll launch that in beta here in a few weeks. But we will, anyone can try or can join that beta program and try our self-hosted solution. Router, we already talked a little bit about this, but just to maybe highlight a few more specs that will be a part of the router. So it will support 2.5 gigabit speeds. We'll have 5 of those ports, 2 PoE plus enabled. And then it'll also have 2 SFP plus ports as well. Our outdoor access point, so we have an actual image to share here on this one. Tony already mentioned our AP6 Pro is IP54 rated. This one will be, so IP54, right? It can be underneath like an eave or an overhang, somewhat protected from the elements. But obviously we know that's not enough. So we'll have a fully outdoor access point available, IP68 rated. The pole mount will be included. The specs will be very similar to the AP6 Pro. So the performance will be equal or better. And we've already been doing a lot of thermal testing on these products and are really impressed with how they're holding up. So we're excited to be launching those in, like I said, April time frame is what we're targeting right now. And then just a couple quick more notes on the 48 port. We don't have a lot of specs to share with you yet, but we will have 4 SFP plus ports on that one. That's again trying to listen to the community. We're trying to build into some of the requests that have been coming in, including that, as well as some we've been receiving requests for obviously a Wi-Fi 7 AP, but also that supports 2.5. That should be megabits per second, not gigahertz there. But anyway, that's kind of it on the future products. So far we've been really happy with the reception of our 5 SKUs, but we know it's a limited portfolio right now, so we're excited to expand and fill out that full portfolio to include those additional products that we mentioned, and obviously we won't stop there either. We'll continue to expand and add more products here in the near future as well. With that, we've got probably I know we probably want to save a little bit more time for Q&A as well, but I can jump back into our controller and maybe highlight a few other important features as well, since we only briefly jumped there. And we won't have time to cover everything here in the control either, but I will just maybe give you kind of a quick overview of some of the other features that you'll see, some of the other things that are a number of other unique features here in the controller. Since we're already here on the SSID setup page, I'll mention just a few here. One, I mentioned as well, we built a lot of multi-site tenancy features into the controller, including right here. You have the ability to with this SSID that we've created and the different passwords that we have associated with it, we can easily add the same SSID and same password setup right to multiple sites. So let's say I'm a university, for example, and we've got different campuses, but I want to have the same SSID and the same guest or password setups everywhere across all the campuses. I can easily add the same setup to any of the other sites that I have as well. Colors, this is also a unique concept, and I'll show you guys what this looks like in a different dashboard in a minute. But the idea with colors is you can assign any of these SSIDs a specific color right here. The concept is one, in this other screen or other dashboard that I'll show you here shortly, you can very easily see and make sure that the right access points are properly broadcasting the right SSIDs just with a glance, right? I can make sure that each each access point is properly broadcasting. The other advantage is to this color system that we've is patent pending as well for us is if you have a site, right, where there's already a number of access points, but you're adding a new one, or multiple new ones, it can be as simple as kind of plugging it in, assigning it the right colors, and then it'll automatically have all the right configuration setups that apply to the other access points as well, based on the color settings. So as opposed to having to go and individually reapply all the same settings to that access point, you can just apply or add the color to that access point, and then it'll be associated with all the other access points of that same color or colors. In advanced settings, again, I won't cover everything here, but we'll just mention one, that we do have a hotspot builder built in. So if you do want to build your own hotspot or splash page right here, you can do that, or you can redirect to an external one as well. And then I'll spend just a little bit more time here on our scheduler. I already mentioned that we have a Wi-Fi scheduler that allows you to limit the time when the Wi-Fi is available. So I mentioned I've got kids. If they should be in bed by 9 p.m. If I can turn off the Wi-Fi right at that time. But there's other vendors that have schedulers like this as well, so we're not necessarily unique there. But what we do differently than others is this feature right here. I'll zoom in maybe a little bit more. It says users can request access during downtime, and if I toggle that to on, that would essentially allow a user at a time, so after 9 p.m. when the Wi-Fi is normally scheduled to be off, my kids could still see that SSID. So if they still try and connect to the SSID, it'll give them a little pop-up menu, right, that says the Wi-Fi is off. Would you like to request access or additional access to the network, right, or time on the network? And that'll come through as a push notification or email notification to myself as the network administrator, and then I can approve or deny that request. So what's different with our schedulers is the SSIDs themselves continue to broadcast even when they're scheduled to be turned off. So the network access is off, but the SSID continues to broadcast, and that allows for this feature right here. The other advantage is if you're installing like a home automation system, for example, home automation systems or other cameras, right? They need those SSIDs to continue to broadcast in order for them to continue to function. So normally you again would have to create a separate SSID for a home automation system, right? And maybe a separate one for your family, where you can have a scheduler built in. With our solution, again, we allow you to clean that up, and if you would choose so, or if you'd like to, you can have again just a single SSID without having to create as many. That's probably it there here there in the Wi-Fi page, just to show you guys a few other things in the settings briefly. I already mentioned we have DPI engines built into the access point, so you can filter or block certain websites or applications right here. Normally with other vendors, you need to have their router as well in order to be able to apply filtering rules or block websites. With our solution, you can do so with just the purchase of even a single access point, because that DPI engine is built right in. Users and the settings, this is where you would go to invite other users to this particular site, or multiple sites if you would like. And then you can, as I alluded to before, for example, even though you share access to the site, you can then choose whether they have access to your locked passwords, for example, or not, right? So there's some different kind of restrictions that you guys can set up for different users. Some maybe just being allowed for kind of like a read only for permissions, right? If they just want to kind of view what's going on in the controller, but not have access to make any changes, right? So we do have different categories of access now. I won't spend a bunch of time here, but there are some additional settings right here in the system. You can change to, change the LED lights and things like that, change time zones. We do support SSH if you need to SSH into the devices. Next, again, I'm just giving you kind of a quick high-level overview of the controller so you can at least see kind of some of the different features. We do support, so we have what's called our site manager. With this particular account, I just have 2 different sites on this one, but there's some others where we have, you know, 10s, 20s, you know, sometimes hundreds of sites, you know, as a network administrator or system integrator, you know, MSP, right? You could be managing a lot of different sites, and so you want to have a place where you can go and see all of them in one place, and see some high level information, right? You know, whether there's devices that are disconnected or any that need to be updated, as you can see right here. And then I also just love the ability to duplicate a site right here. So if again, maybe coming back to college campus kind of example, right? Or you know, so if I want to just duplicate all the settings that I have on one site and create another site exactly like it, it's just with the click of a button, which is really convenient. Okay, just again, conscious of time, so I won't give you everything, but I just want to show you maybe briefly our few dashboards and some of the things you can do on some of the different dashboards. So this is our devices dashboard where you can see all the individual devices that are connected to the network. You can filter or categorize by you know each category right here. So you know by viewing the busiest, I'm viewing the busiest devices here first right now, for example, and then I can click on individual devices, and it opens up cards so that I can do you know additional modifications if I want to change things at the device level. So, for example, Landon's iPhone, if he came in through my standard network, but I want to reassign him to my guest network, I can override our password technology and push him to the guest network, as well as you know provide rate restrictions or you know bypass the hotspot schedule or filter things like that at the device level. Jumping over to our network page, this is where we're going to see all of our different access points and switches in one spot. Coming back to the colors concept that I mentioned before, right? I talked about how you can assign a different SSID a specific color. So, for example, here at our headquarters, we've got our red right here represents our alarm system SSID. And so I can quickly just again with a glance make sure that all the right access points are properly broadcasting our alarm system. Maybe I you know have a need for a temporary network to be set up, like I've got an event and I want to set up a separate network just for that event. I can you know quickly create that SSID, assign it a color, and then come in here and just assign all the you know the right access points that color, and then it'll be properly broadcasting that SSID, and then take it down later, as an example. A couple other things real quick. I'll just mention I can again open up individual devices right here. And so if I open up 2 different access points, another big advantage to the Alta cloud controller solution is the ability to make changes on the fly without disrupting the network environment. So normally with other vendors, right? So for example, if I need to adjust the channel or you know channel bandwidth or make some setting change, right? There will then be, if I hit save, like a reprovisioning process, and that access point will go down, the network will drop in the process, and that can be really disruptive to you know anyone that's trying to work in this space. And so typically network administrators or you know someone that's managing the Wi-Fi has to wait until everyone's out of the office to make any changes. With our solution, you can make changes on the fly without having to worry about that. The changes are applied instantly, and the network doesn't drop in the process. I can even go here to like the quick scan feature and scan the RF environment. Normally with other vendors, this also takes a long time, and it disrupts the Wi-Fi in the process. You can see how quick that was, and it actually doesn't disrupt the Wi-Fi network at all in the process as well. So a number of great advantages there to the solution. maybe I'll just mention one last one, and then we can close and have any additional questions that have come in. Another unique feature that we're happy with and have received some great feedback on here in this section is this fallback upon failure feature. The idea with this feature is if I, as a network administrator, for example, decided I wanted to assign a static IP address, and I accidentally mistyped that IP address, which is an easy mistake to make. That normally with other vendors, that access point would then become isolated and be offline, and the only way to get it back online is to drive out to where it's located and manually reset that device, which can take a lot of time and cost a lot of money in the process. With this fallback upon failure feature turned on, it allows the access point to fall back to its last known working state. So it'll go back to the last IP address, for example, where it was working, and as opposed to becoming isolated. So a great time saver for you guys as installers to prevent you having to go back out to a particular site. So that's a quick high-level overview of the controller. We didn't necessarily cover everything. There's a lot of other features as well, but for the sake of time, that should give you kind of a good high-level overview of what you can get with the Alta controller, and kind of where we're going as a company. Any other questions that have come in, Mark, that we can help address?
Thanks, Tony. Very informative. Of course, if you guys have any other questions, make sure you reach out to your rep, or reach out to Alta Labs as well. I mean, that's one thing I think that really sets them above is their support. How about we can cover this warranty for all products?
Yeah. Or Tony, actually, I've done a lot of talking lately. You mind taking some of the Q&A? Thanks.
For sure. So our products come with a 2-year warranty. And in the near future, we actually will have some extended warranty on some new products that we can talk about a little bit later that will have up to about 5 years. So stay tuned for that product that's coming out here in the next month or two.
Very nice. Yeah, we got a couple questions here. For the controller management, is there also an app? If a built-in app?
Yeah, so you can use iOS or Android. Those are both available on Google Play and the App Store. You just have to search Alta Networks on the app stores. Good question.
Coverage of the AP, and I'm actually looking on the site right now. I don't see total coverage. Can you answer that for us?
Yeah, so coverage is it's a good question because there isn't a set number because there's so many variables when you're installing environments of each of individual installs come into play, like the materials for the walls, all that comes into play. So that's why we don't really have one. But I would maybe suggest something under 800 square 800 square feet or something like that should be a pretty safe number.
Okay.
But yeah, there's too many variables to say exactly. But we are actually coming out with a design tool for future installs as well that will help with that situation. So you can actually pinpoint what type of walls or installs in those environments that you have that will help as you install in these different areas.
And then I also seen weatherproofing on the AP6 Pro. That's IP54 rated, I believe, right? So you could put those maybe under an eave, just something that's not in the open. Okay.
Exactly.
We're just getting hit with elements and such. Okay.
Exactly. And then Dallin mentioned we are coming out with our own outdoor access point that's IP68 rated that you can fully expose in the elements.
Very good. Yeah, no, that's all the questions that looks like we have. Appreciate everybody joining us. Also, keep in mind, I didn't mention this before, but this month we have triple star points on all of our Alta Labs products for our rewards program. So this is you want to maybe start adding into your future applications, you get additional star points for purchasing Alta Labs. But Dale and Tony, I really appreciate you guys joining us. Thank you for everybody else that are able to join us this morning. We'll have this recorded on our virtual conference center. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your rep. So really appreciate you guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mark.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Take
Thanks,
care, everybody.